Bravo bosses. This is the Bravo Investigator Podcast. I'm your host, Dana, and today we are talking about In the City, Season 1, Episode 7. Let's get into it. Happy Thursday, everyone. I hope everyone's had a great week so far. I know that I have because I have been off work since yesterday. Yesterday was Wednesday, which was Canada Day, so it's obviously a statutory holiday, so there was no work. And then I took today off and tomorrow off just so I could have like a nice 5-day long weekend, which I have very much been enjoying. I really just needed to like reset, recharge, refresh, all of the things. And as you can tell by my attitude today and how happy I am, I think it is definitely paying off. Sometimes you really just need that break from work or whatever stressors you have going on in your life so that you can sort of go back to center, I guess, in a sense. And I definitely feel like back to center. So definitely enjoying my time off, really enjoying catching up on my Bravo shows, on my other shows. And something funny, I was actually deciding to rewatch an old show. You guys are going to die. This show is 10 years old at least. It was called Revenge. I don't know if you guys remember it. It was about this girl whose father was charged with a crime that he didn't commit, and he was framed for it. And she basically spends the rest of her life throughout the show trying to avenge his death and getting close to the people who framed him for the crime that he didn't commit. So I'm really into that right now and really enjoying that, and basically just couch rotting, enjoying my life, and not spending too much time outside because it is hot as hell here in Toronto. It is like 42 degrees or whatever that means for Celsius for you guys, but it is really freaking hot. Cannot go outside for the life of me. It's just like a sauna out there. So I'm inside enjoying my life, enjoying you guys, and I'm here to chat with you today. But I don't know what we've got on the horizon when it comes to TV and when it comes to the podcast, because obviously we just finished The Real Housewives of Rhode Island. Yana Firestone and I did a whole collab on that for the past few months for season 1, which we really enjoyed. In the City, obviously we're doing today, which is episode 7. I don't know how many episodes there's going to be. Initially, I heard there was 6. Obviously, that's not true. I guess there's going to be maybe 8 or 9. I don't really know. And then maybe 1 or 2 reunions. So we'll definitely continue doing that. Love Island USA, I'm still watching, and I'm giving you guys updates here and there as I can. Next Gen NYC, I think I might start recapping for you guys. We just had episode 2 come out, so I might do a double episode tomorrow, episodes 1 and 2. And then last week, I released season 1 of Next Gen NYC from the Patreon vault. So you can go back and listen to that if you like. And then The Real Housewives of OC season 20 is coming up soon. I haven't decided if I'm going to be recapping that. I kind of feel against it, I guess, in the way that Katie Janela was treated. I also just feel like the show is so incredibly boring, and I just don't feel like I'm going to enjoy it, even though I haven't even seen season 20 yet. I do hear that it's going to be lighter, but I don't know if that's something that is recappable necessarily in a sense. I definitely don't want to recap it if it's boring, because then it just feels like a chore, and it feels like not something that I'm actually enjoying doing. So I guess we'll kind of have to see how it goes. But don't worry, I will still make sure to get you guys at least 3 to 4 episodes here on the feed every single week. And as you know, every Monday we do our reality roundup where I talk about all of the news from all of the different shows that are in the reality TV sphere. And I have a pretty big one coming up on Monday. So we're going to enjoy that one. But let's get into it. In the City, season 1, episode 7. I actually really, really enjoyed this episode. And I feel like now that Summer House is finally over and it's come to its bitter end, we can finally focus on In the City, because I feel like people weren't as into it or weren't maybe even enjoying it as much because we were so focused on what was going on with Summer House. But now that that's over, I feel like we can shift our focus to this show, which is still giving us the Summer House vibes in the sense that we're getting to continue to see some of these characters as they continue on, which I believe is something that we all want to do. We feel invested in these people. We've been watching them for years, and so we want to continue seeing it go on. But I feel like this show is sort of getting better as the weeks go on. We're getting to know the characters better. And in particular, I found this episode super relatable to me when it comes to the Kenny and Lindsay stuff, when it comes to their relationships with their parents, because I have a contentious, well, I don't have a relationship with my mom right now. She's a narcissist and we don't speak and we haven't spoken in over a year. So to me, I felt like this episode was super relatable to me. And that is something that I do enjoy in our reality TV shows. Sometimes I like to be taken out of my reality and so I can like when I watch Revenge, right? Like I'm not definitely dealing with anything related in that show. So to me, it really is taking me so outside of my reality so that I can enjoy what I'm watching. But then at the same time, I like a show like In the City where I do feel like a connection to the characters and a connection to some of the themes that are going on because it makes me feel like I can relate. It makes me feel like um, more invested in the story, I guess is how you would explain it. So we get into this episode starting off with Lindsay and the boys. They all head over to one of Gavin's bars and they're basically talking about Owen. Owen is Danielle's now baby daddy. Congrats to Danielle and Owen who have had their baby 10 weeks early, but hopefully the baby's okay. But they're basically talking about how Owen was evasive at one of their previous boys' nights. And Kyle thinks that if Owen is trying to get to know everyone and not seem shady, he should be able to answer basic questions like when he got married and when he got divorced. Now, Lindsay starts Googling Owen's divorce right then and there in front of the guys because she's like, listen, I operate based on facts. I need to like see the information, see the evidence. So basically, she finds photos that show that he got married 2 years ago when he told everyone that he was married for 4 years. Regardless, I kind of feel like this whole obsession with Danielle and Owen is interesting, but also like not necessary in a sense, right? Like, I understand what Kyle is saying about like it makes you seem shady if you're being evasive, but at the same time, he doesn't know you guys. I don't think he really has an understanding of the reality TV space and that you are supposed to be so open and honest about like every aspect of your life. Yes, he is a cast member, but I really doubt he has a full understanding of what that means. And at the end of the day, like while you are supposed to be talking about your life and being open, at the same time, there's like a trust aspect that has to come with that. Like if I was on a TV show and I'm meeting someone for the first time and they ask me about like my divorce, which I haven't been divorced, but they ask me, I don't know, they ask me about my eating disorder. I'm going to be like, can you buy me a drink first? Like, can we get to know each other a little bit first? Because despite the fact that that's your job on reality TV, you still need to feel comfortable sharing that information with someone, meaning you need to feel like you have a relationship with them in order to share that information. So I feel like people should try to get to know Owen before they try to like get into all of his dirty laundry or lack thereof. Gavin talks about meeting up with his dad. He's telling Lindsay this, which I feel like really bonded them together because it really showed that they had a lot of connection. Where at the beginning of the season, we saw them have such a contentious relationship because it really seemed like they had nothing in common and like they were really such opposites in a way and just really couldn't read each other very well. But I feel like the fact that Gavin just met up with his dad after like 28 years and the fact that Lindsay hasn't spoken to her mom in several years and that she's not interested in reconciling, it really shows that, there are certain things that can really bond two people together. I always say this about like reality TV, for example, right? Like there's this girl that I work with where we have absolutely nothing in common and we're such different people, but she loves Bravo. And it is the one thing that bonds us together. And so if I'm ever trying to like relate to her or have a conversation with her, I always will try to bring it back to Bravo because that's like our relatable thing. So it's really interesting now to see how Kenny and Lindsay actually have something very real and very important in common. And where at the beginning of the season, we were like, these two will never, ever be friends. That would be crazy. So then we move on to Yvonne, who's been talking about struggling with being unemployed. She's hurting because she was sort of the go-to person in NYC for any event. That was like her job. She did that for 7 years. She was like the head of marketing and PR for like, a huge company. And so to be let go of that and to not feel that sense of importance that she used to feel is really hard. So she's planning her own wedding because, as we know, her and Nick got married in Mexico a couple of years ago, but it wasn't like an official formal marriage. So they did like the courthouse one here, and now they're going to have a big party. So she feels like having this wedding party gives her the opportunity to remind her of who she is and what she's good at. I totally relate to Yvonne here. I lost my job last year in December. I wasn't laid off. I was straight up fired. So very different. But there is something about being let go from something that you think that you were good at. The thing that I think that I'm good at in the world is working, is my job, right? Like my actual Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 job. I've always been very successful at work. And so to be told that I wasn't successful and that I wasn't a good writer and that you're not worth working here and we're going to fire you, it really fucks with what you think about yourself and your worth and what you think that you're good at. Like, if there's nothing that I feel that I'm better at than work and then I'm told that I'm bad at it, like that just sort of fucks with like who you think you are as a person and what you think your value is, right? So for Yvonne, she sort of feels like, what is my value if I'm not the head of marketing, right? And so I totally understand that because it really gave her purpose. It gave her a sense of self. And then to have that taken away, you're like, who am I, right? You sort of need to refigure out who you are. And I'm curious when this happened because I think it actually was sort of kismet in a way, if it all worked out the way that I think it did, where she loses her job, but then gets the offer for this show. Then she ends up getting pregnant. So it all just sort of ends up working out for her in a sense of like, maybe you were supposed to leave that job because you were supposed to do this show and then go on and have a baby and stuff like that. So sometimes everything happens for a reason. I'm still waiting to figure out why I was fired and whether that had a purpose or a reason, but you never really know. Then we get this scene of Kyle and Carl Radke. Yes, the Carl Radke from Summer House. They're sitting down together at Soft Bar. I love a Soft Bar sighting, and they're talking about Amanda. Kyle hopes that this move with them moving out separately will be like a hard reset for them. He says that what keeps him up at night is whether he's in love with her or not. And Carl tells him that the world will not end no matter what happens, but it's hard being labeled the bad guy because that's what Carl felt like happened to him, right? He was the asshole. He was the one who broke up with Lindsay. He was the one who blindsided her, right? But at the end of the day, it did all end up working out. They're friends now. Carl is living his best life. Lindsay is living her best life. And so while it may be painful and difficult for a period of time, it's not forever. But I think this whole concept of whether they're in love or not is really interesting because it does keep coming up, right? We did hear Kyle say to Wes in that pickup episode that they did for Summer House, the Aftermath episode, that he hasn't been in love with Amanda for years. But I think that during the filming of In the City, he and Amanda both were trying to figure out the answer to that question because it is a really big question. And it's not such an obvious answer, especially when you've been with someone for 10 years. I think they're like, of course I love this person. Of course I do. That's why I'm trying to make it work. I can't imagine my life without this person. But I also hate you with every fiber of my being. And I think they are trying to figure out the balance between that because they're like, how can I love her, but also hate her with such a passion, right? And vice versa. And this comes up a little bit later on as well. We also get them talking about this a couple of episodes back, I feel like. We had a sit down with Kyle and Amanda where they did like a date night type of thing, and they were talking about whether they were still in love or not. They both said that they were, but it was very awkward to watch and it didn't feel genuine. And I feel like what ends up leading to their eventual divorce, I mean, amongst all of the other things, is them finally coming to that realization that, oh, I'm not in love with you anymore. And I don't think that I have the capacity to be, right? I feel like that's what makes a really big difference. So then we get this sit down with Lindsay and Kenny, and this is the one that I was talking about. They get together to talk about their parents. Lindsay explains basically what happened with her mom was that her mom had her and her brother, and when she was about 2 years old or 3 years old, her mom was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, she can't do it as a parent. Lindsay basically stopped talking to her for good at 22. They had gotten in a stupid fight, and Lindsay realized that she just wanted to focus on herself and her career and not deal with like this selfish woman as a mom who said that she basically could have done all of these other things in life if she didn't have kids. And Lindsay says it's fucked up to be rejected by the person who biologically chose to have you. I very much relate to this. As I mentioned earlier, my mom and I haven't spoken in over a year. Our relationship was always contentious. It was always difficult. It always involved a lot of yelling and screaming. And it definitely always felt to me like my mom had kids because that is what you are supposed to do, not because she actually wanted to. Because whenever she had to do something that required her to, I don't know, be a parent, it really made her seem like, or she acted as though it was the biggest burden to her in the world. There was a lot of, oh my God, do I have to, right? It was just like a very selfish mindset. And it was so weird for me to grow up with somebody who was so inherently selfish because that is just not who I am. Even if I don't want to do something for somebody, I don't know, drive them to the airport, I will still do it because like, what kind of a dick of a person would I be not to, right? So I really relate to this whole concept of like, this person made the choice to have you, but then they're also not following through with that by like being a parent, right? And that's a really difficult thing to understand because your parents by nature are inherently supposed to want you and love you and be there for you. And I think that those of us who have strained relationships with our parents or who don't have relationships with our parents anymore, I think we've all gone through the cycles of it where we've gone back and forth and we've tried, right? Because of course you want to try. It's family. And I can't even sit here today and say, I'll never speak to my mom again ever in life. But I can say it has been really like fruitful for me. Like I truly haven't looked back. I've felt a lot safer. I have felt a lot calmer. That being said, this past weekend was my first cousin's wedding. So my mom's brother's daughter, and I didn't go. And I haven't communicated with that side of the family in over a year because I just felt like that's my mom's side of the family and I'm not going to do that. That being said, my mom's brother, my uncle, is very ill and he will be dying soon. And it's made me think about the funeral and how I would navigate that. I don't want to not go to the funeral in the way that I didn't go to the wedding because I feel like that would be a whole other level of disrespectful. But in another sense, I don't want to cause drama by being there because I haven't seen that side of the family in so long or engaged with them. Plus, my mom loves to create drama at every event, including funerals. Trust me, she has created quite the drama at many a funeral. So it's something I've been thinking about and stressing about and worrying about because I'm like, how do I pay my respects while also keeping my boundaries? You know what I mean? And so I've talked to my dad about it a bit. I think I might like go late. And like when and if it does happen, I think I might go late and sit in the back and just feel like I've paid my respects that way by like being there. Um, but it's a difficult thing because it's not just about like cutting off your parent. It can actually like have a ripple effect to like the rest of your family. And that's really difficult. You know what I mean? Lindsay talks about how sometimes she'll pick guys who end up abandoning her, right? She's like, Carl ended up abandoning me. The baby daddy ended up abandoning me. And Kenny talks about that as well. He feels like, I was in this 11-year relationship that didn't work out. And then I was in this 8-year relationship that didn't work out. And then he lost his mom. So he sort of has this feeling of like flux and never knowing if something is going to work out. And I think now that his mom has passed, you can really see with Kenny him trying to like understand himself more and reconcile in his own mind. Like, did the fact that I didn't have my father in my life for 28 plus years, is that the reason that I can't commit to marriage? Is that the reason I can't commit to these relationships? Is that the reason I'm never sure if something is going to work out? Right. And it's like a mind fuck. They talk about how they have both pushed people away as a test to see if person will fight for them. And this is something that I definitely feel like we've seen Lindsay do. When it came to Stravy, the summer of, how many sandwiches have you made for me? This was their COVID season where everybody was living in the house together full time. Lindsay and Stravy were going at it, but a lot of it was her being like, I want you to do things for me. I want you to show that you love me. And then when he wasn't doing that in the exact way that she wanted, like, for example, he planned an anniversary dinner for them that she did not think was up to par. It was basically just the food from the place that they had gone on their first date and they ate it outside in the backyard. She didn't feel like that was good enough. She started a fight with him and then he took off, right? And I feel like the fact that he took off is a big deal for her because for her, these abandonment issues are very, very real. And I feel like she was trying to push Stravy away to see if he would come back, right? And he didn't always come back. And I feel like that was a big, determiner for her. But I think it makes a lot of sense to see like, you have all of these people who are constantly abandoning you in your life, constantly leaving you. And I feel like there's something innate within you that makes you be like, what if I tried to push them away? And if they stayed, then that means that we're meant to be forever, or it means that they're a real person in my life if they come back, right? I also feel like there's a lot of insight to being able to know that you do that, right? Like not everybody realizes that they push people away in order to see if they will fight for them, right? Like, but Lindsay and Kenny both seem to have enough insight into themselves. Maybe they're both very much therapy people into knowing that that is something that they're doing. And I thought that that was really insightful. Lindsay talks about how having Gemma has made her question how her mom could have ever walked away from her. And Kenny says you either become your parents or you break the cycle. And that is so very true. We see that in so many other respects, right? You could have a parent that like beats the shit out of you and then you either beat the shit out of your kids or you make sure that that never happens again and you break the cycle, right? And that's why sometimes it can be, I don't want to call it beneficial, but it can be somewhat fruitful, I guess, to have a difficult family because it teaches you what you want and what you don't want in your own future family. And you can sort of, in an attempt to try to control that, right? Like try to break the cycle, try to make sure that the same types of things don't happen again. But regardless, I just felt like this conversation was really, really interesting because to me, it was very relatable. Just because somebody is your parent doesn't mean that they should necessarily be in your life or that they're the right thing for you. I really commend Lindsay actually for cutting her mom out, especially when she felt that it wasn't good for her to have this person in her life. It can be really frustrating to have someone in your life that is inherently not supposed to be selfish towards you be so selfish because it feels so off putting and not like what's meant to be in a way. Like it just feels like you're not supposed to be this way towards me. You're my mom. And sometimes friends can become our family in that very same way. I've always put a lot of weight on my friends more so than my family because I've always considered my friends more so family than my actual family. I've made a lot of changes in my life lately in terms of friends and family and cutting people out and really streamlining my life and my relationships and stuff. And like I said, I kind of haven't looked back and I've never been happier and I just feel a lot calmer and safer when I have people in my life that don't cause chaos, right? And even if that chaos agent is your own parent, sometimes it's what's best for you not to have that in your life. So again, really commend both of them for having this really complicated conversation. Then we move on to our main scene of the night, which is Yvonne and Nick's wedding dinner with the cast, which is super beautiful. So all the props to Yvonne. She definitely knows how to throw a party. Now, people start asking Kyle and Amanda questions about their new arrangement. Basically, Gavin, okay? Gavin is like such a shit disturber. He's like, what's it like not sleeping together? And what's it like now? And he's like, don't you smoke every night, Amanda? Isn't that what's causing you guys issues in your relationship? And it's like, Gavin, Jesus Christ, you are just such a little shit disturber. And there's this flashback to Kyle telling the guys that Amanda smokes every night and it affects their sex life and ability to have a conversation. Now, we have heard him talk about this before on Summer House. I do have to disagree here. I do not think the fact that she is smoking weed is the reason that they're not having sex. Like, we recently found out closer to the end of Summer House that they haven't had sex in 4 years, meaning the entire duration of their relationship. Sorry, their marriage, the entire duration of their actual marriage. That being said, Amanda has already told us that she only smokes before bed. Now, Kyle is not home before bed, right? Like, Kyle is out till God knows when. So if she's smoking right before she goes to bed and then goes to sleep, what does that have to do with your sex life, right? You're not even home to have it. She's doing it to go to sleep at a time when you're not even there. Honestly, though, I mean, I don't know what their conversations were about not having sex for the past 4 years. Maybe it's possible that she was like, I'm too high and I don't want to. But I kind of feel like they didn't have sex because she wasn't over the cheating. And listen, I would never be able to get over something like that either, but I also wouldn't marry the person that cheated on me either, right? So in my opinion, I truly believe that she never got over the cheating, and that's the real reason that she refused to have sex with him. I don't really think it had anything to do with the weed and not having conversation. She's smoking right before bed, so why are you trying to have conversations with her at that time? Also, I feel like we've seen him do this a million times at Summer House, where she is fast asleep and he is talking to her and making conversation with her. So I don't know if he is trying to tie in, like, when she is sleeping slash high, she is not available for sex or conversation. Yeah. Okay. Right. Like, it's nighttime. He does seem to try to have a lot of conversations at nighttime. A lot of that has to do with the fact that this man doesn't sleep, but still, I really don't think that these two things are related. Amanda defends herself by saying smoking weed has never affected their relationship or caused her to cheat in the way that drinking does for Kyle. And Kyle claims it affects their sex life again. But again, I don't think these two things are related. But, you know, yes, drinking doesn't cause, or sorry, weed is not causing her to cheat. And drinking could cause Kyle to cheat. But again, we are talking about cheating from 10 years ago. The fact that she cannot let go of this one time and to be like, you know, because he drinks, he's going to cheat on me. It's like, okay, Amanda, if you think he's going to cheat on you because he drinks, then don't be with him, right? But like to make these two comparisons are not really comparable here to me, especially because Kyle has said that he does believe that the weed does affect your relationship, not in a cheating way, but he does believe that it affects your relationship, right? So if you're doing something that he feels affects the relationship in the way that you feel that he does things that affects the relationship, then I feel like you need to take that in some regard, right? Like, you need to be able to have a conversation about it. She just turns everything back to cheating. Everything, everything, everything. Kyle claims, or sorry, Yvonne calls Danielle out for wearing a white dress to the wedding. Now, I did notice that the dress was a light color, and it was funny because ended up being so much discourse about this online. So Danielle had actually texted a picture of the dress to Yvonne, and Yvonne said, "Love, looks great, right?" Now, obviously, the fact that Danielle is texting Yvonne about it means that she was unsure about it. And so a lot of the internet is of the perspective of like, if you had to ask, then you shouldn't wear the dress. But Yvonne did say that it looked fine, right? That being said, a lot of other people online are saying that Danielle must have like saturated the photo and changed the resolution of it. I think that that is super dramatic and whatever. She probably should have worn something else, but I just don't think it's like that big a deal at the end of the day, right? Like she did send a picture of it. It's whatever, right? I really feel like Danielle is like the loser of this group. They love kind of shitting on her and treating her as like, yeah, like the loser of the group, it sort of feels like, right? So I don't know. I do like Danielle, and I'm gonna ride for her for a little bit for the rest of this episode because I really feel like she's in the right for the majority of it, but we'll get to that in a second. So Kyle and Amanda both admit that they are not in love with each other. And Lindsay gets really emotional and tells the camera that she thought that she and her baby daddy could figure out the public private stuff, and she was willing to compromise her career for their family because she thought that she found her person, but he didn't feel the same way. Lindsay tries to mediate with Kyle and Amanda and says that they both want the same things, but they are trying to change each other, which is very true, right? Like they both want to be married, but they want to be married in like a different way. And Amanda wants Kyle to stay home. Kyle wants Amanda to go out. And they just have never been on the same page. They have never wanted the same things. But I think it's really interesting here that they admitted that they're not in love with each other. And I wonder if this was the first time that they really like admitted that and honed in on that, considering this was on TV in front of like a group of people, right? Like it's kind of wild to sort of have that realization sort of in public in that way. But I also thought what Lindsay was saying was really interesting because we have gotten very little about her relationship with Turner because we didn't see it on TV. She speaks about him very sparingly, right? And they are going through a mediation process together about Gemma. So she probably doesn't want to say anything too negative. But we know that she thought that this was her person, right? And it must have been absolutely devastating for her, despite the fact that we didn't get to like witness it, that this ended, especially so quickly after them having a baby together, right? And I thought it was really interesting for her to say that she was willing to give up her career for their family. Because in that pickup scene that we saw of Summer House, not this past season, but the season before, where Craig and Paige broke up and we had that pickup scene at like Lindsay's house, Lindsay says, like, you know, if she knew that Turner had such an issue about the public private thing, she wouldn't have had a baby with him or she wouldn't have gotten together with him because that is the one thing she wouldn't give up, her public persona. And I was like, wow, okay. I mean, if it's that important to you and this is what you're passionate about and this is your career and it's not something you want to give up, okay, all the power to you. But then to hear her say differently, I wonder if that was like in a moment of desperation or, I mean, I don't know, right? I think that Yvonne is right in the sense that she knows that Lindsay is the type of person who wants her fairy tale. She wants her happily ever after. And she was probably willing to fight tooth and nail to get it, right? I mean, I've heard other people say similar things. Like Sheena Shea, you would think is the one person who would never leave Vanderpump Rules and would hang on to it, you know, for dear life. But there was a point in time when she was dating that guy, Rob, you know, Rob Valletta, where he tried to break up with her and she was like, I'll quit the show if you want me to quit the show. And, you know, that wasn't it. Like he just didn't want to be with her, but like she was willing to give up the show to be with him if that's what would have worked out, right? And it just shows how much sometimes that whole idea of a family or, you know, the relationship, it just kind of trumps everything for some people, right? And it's sad because at the end of the day, you don't want to give up on something that you're passionate about, especially if somebody else is telling you like, hey, your passion is making me upset, right? Like ideally, you want to find somebody who, what's the word? Like is passionate about that for you is like almost like Dan and Ariana, right? Where he's taking pictures of her, he's coming to Fiji to hang out with her. He is her biggest support system, right? You almost want somebody who's like, yeah, you want like the Instagram boyfriend, the one who's like you are the best thing ever. You are going to become such a major star and I'm going to be standing there on the sidelines cheering you on, right? And I hope that Lindsay finds herself a guy who is so proud of her for everything that she's accomplished on her own and is very supportive of her being on TV, right? Now, this is where Amanda tries to chime in with this Kyle and her thing about like, them wanting different things. And she's like, "Ugh, Kyle just wants a party girl." And Kyle's like, "You do not know me at all if you think that that's what I'm looking for." And it just shows again that these two just hate each other so absolutely much. I mean, I'm not sure how I feel about this particular point because, again, Kyle does want someone who, like, he wants a relationship. He wants to be married. But I think he does also want somebody who can support him out there while he's DJing and come out with him and stuff. Whether he wants a party girl, I don't know necessarily, right? Like, I don't know if that's specifically what he's looking for, but again, it just really shows that these two are so, so, so not on the same page to the point where it's like, there's like vitriol, right? I mean, there was a point in time where like Yvonne and Nick were kind of talking about how much they love each other and, kind of giving a speech at the wedding. And Kyle gives Amanda this sort of loving look and she gives him the finger. She is such a bitch. Like, girl, stop saying that you love him at all because you don't, right? It's just so interesting how long it took her to realize that she not only is not in love with him, not only doesn't love him as a person, she actually just really, really hates him. So then Danielle calls out Lindsay for Googling Owen with the boys. And Lindsay explains that she was only doing that because she operates based on fact. And so, we get the flashback to her Googling and trying to figure out what she was trying to figure out and her saying, I just need to figure it out based on fact. Now, Danielle feels like it was two-faced to try to sniff out something that Owen was doing wrong. Amanda explains that she tried to approach Owen about this at Halloween or something like that. She was trying to give him the opportunity to clear the air about his marriage. And she was just like, did you get married 2 years ago or 4 years ago? And he gave her attitude about it. And she was just like, okay, like, what the hell? Danielle keeps questioning why this even matters. And Lindsay's like, because he's on a TV show. And why is he here? And why are you here? And Danielle's like, aha, that's what this is about. I knew it. You do not want me on this show. And that's what made me sort of question, like, who did do the casting for this show? Because I think we were all under the impression that Lindsay was heavily involved in the casting. I mean, like, this is her friend group. That being said, we didn't know about Danielle being a part of this cast for quite some time. She wasn't in the promo or like the trailers or anything like that. So I wonder if it was actually Bravo production, whoever, who decided, hey, let's bring on Danielle because this could create like a good contentious situation between her and Lindsay, because it doesn't really feel like at the point in time in their friendship that Lindsay and Danielle were at when this show started filming, that Lindsay would have been like, hey, yeah, cast Danielle on this, right? Now, I see what Lindsay's saying when she's like, it's your job on the show to be honest and open about your life. I totally get that. But Danielle feels like no one has tried to get to know Owen outside of like trying to figure out if he's shady or not, right? She says no one has asked him his last name. No one has asked him what he's interested in, right? So of course he's a little bit guarded when people are like, how long have you been married? Was it irreconcilable differences? Why don't you ask him like what he likes to do on the weekend first and then do that, right? It's what I was saying earlier about like, you need to establish and build trust with someone before they're willing to just be open with you, whether or not it is their job to do that on reality TV. And I feel like Owen is just sort of feeling, what's the word? Like, I feel like he doesn't feel safe, I guess, in this environment. And he doesn't feel like safe to share this information with a bunch of people who are only asking him questions about something which seems like they're doing it in an effort to try to catch him in a lie, right? If they were trying to establish a real friendship with him and get to know him and all of these things, then yeah, he'd probably be more open to sharing this information. But because you guys are only coming at him with like, when did you get a divorce and when did you lie about it and why did you lie about it? Do you expect him to be all like sunshine and roses and open to you guys? Like, absolutely not. Like, it doesn't really make sense. Danielle tells the camera that she used to be Lindsay's ride or die. And then she started pushing back on her a bit. And that's when she feels like the falling out started with her and Lindsay, because Lindsay doesn't like when you aren't radiating sunshine onto her. She feels like Lindsay doesn't want to see her in a happy or a good place. I mean, I don't know about that, right? I feel like between these two, there is a lot of contention. There's a lot of vitriol. And while you're not supposed to have that, obviously in a close friendship, you should want to be happy for the other person with whatever they have going on. I feel like neither of these two can really do that for each other because there is so much built up anger and hurt. I do believe that Danielle is on this show for, whatever reason, but I don't think that Lindsay is actually interested in having a friendship with her. Whether or not Lindsay was involved in her casting, I think that Lindsay is only speaking to Danielle because she knows that she has to do that as part of her job. But I think she does truly not forgive Danielle for all of the things that she's done to her in the past. So I feel like that's why it's coming out this way in a sense. I don't necessarily think that Danielle or that Lindsay doesn't like when someone isn't saying something positive to her, because I feel like there was many times in the past where Danielle would be hard on Lindsay and Lindsay was receptive to it. So I don't think it's about raining sunshine on her. I think it's just about like saying a lot of negative stuff about her life sort of over and over and over again. While Danielle has historically been right, her delivery has always been sort of wrong, right? And I feel like she needs to just be a little more sensitive and softer when she talks to Lindsay and when it comes to like Lindsay's big life decisions, because again, at the end of the day, you guys aren't even close right now. So you don't really have like the same position in her life to be able to tell her what you think is right or wrong. And I feel like vice versa, right? Like Danielle is not interested in what Lindsay has to say about her relationship with Owen. I don't know if these two will ever be friends again unless they actually really sit down and work out the history, but I just don't know if it's possible, because sometimes there's things that just kind of stick with you forever. And I think part of the problem for Lindsay was that Danielle sort of kept doing these things over and over again. And it was just kind of not the kind of friendship that she wanted to be in anymore. Do I think Lindsay's jealous and doesn't want to see Danielle happy? I don't know, right? Like, I'm a regular person and I don't really get jealous about anything except for like opportunities. So I don't really know. But like I said, Yvonne is probably right that at the end of the day, Lindsay wants her happy ending. She wants her Prince Charming. She wants her happily ever after. And so maybe she is a little bit jealous that it seems like Danielle has that. And so she wants to put a little bit of a wrench into it. I don't know. At the end of the day, I don't think there's anything shady about Owen. I don't think there was any crossover. I don't think anything weird happened. And I think the idea that we're making this entire thing a storyline about a guy being separated and then moving on after he's separated in the very same way that Amanda has moved on with West while she is currently separated, it just feels like a really stupid storyline to me, because I feel like there's way bigger issues that we can be talking about as opposed to whether Owen had any crossover or not. Like, I really could not care less. All right. Well, anyways, you guys, that is the end of the episode today. I hope that you enjoyed it. You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at The Bravo Investigator. Join the Facebook group and subscribe to the YouTube channel where you can watch episodes like today. And I love you, BBs. I will see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Bravo Investigator podcast. You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at The Bravo Investigator. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and join the Facebook page. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a 5-star review.